And speaking of backlogs, let's spend a minute and just talk about this recent visa bulletin warning and what that means for clients and what we've seen historically with respect to similar visa bulletin warnings.
Sure. So in the December notice for the January 2025 visa bulletin, the government came out and said, hey, based on the data that we're seeing right now, it may be possible that they'll need to establish cutoff dates for EB5 category for rural and high unemployment in this fiscal year of 2025. And generally, the government has given us warnings like this 2 or 3 times, 3 times previously. The first time, as I mentioned earlier, was in 2015, where they gave us the warning in January for the February visa bulletin. And then they ended up establishing that cutoff by about May of 2015. Similarly, they gave us a warning in 2018, January for the February visa bulletin. They ended up establishing the cutoff in May of 2018. The shortest time, that was for Vietnam in 2018. The shortest time frame that we received was for India in 2019, where they told us of a possibility of a cutoff in May 2019 for the June 2019 visa bulletin, and then the cutoff date was established pretty soon after in July of 2019. So it was a little over a month notice that everyone received for that cutoff. So historically, the Department of State is pretty good about predicting these visa numbers. So when they say that there's a possibility for a potential backlog, I think it should be something that people take seriously, especially those who have potential aging out children, to consider filing sooner than later, because they've historically been pretty accurate with their assessment.
Yep, and let's just spend a minute and just talk about what we've seen happen historically with this type of.
Oh, for the visa bulletin. So the important part for a visa bulletin is that it comes out generally the 15th of the month prior. So for example, the January 2025 visa bulletin came out in mid-December, and then it will tell you what the visa cutoff dates will look like. So the reason why that's important and beneficial for a lot of applicants is that if they know there's going to be a cutoff established the next month, they can still have some time to go ahead and file for the green card application during that month. So let me give an example. Let's say in February, on February 15th, 2025, the government puts out a visa bulletin and says, hey, in March 1st, a cutoff is going to be established. Everyone would want to file their application, their EB5 and their green card application before February 28th and for receipt by the government, so that they're not, they're not subject to that backlog as soon as it hits, and they already have their green card application pending. So in the example that is listed on the PowerPoint, we've put off, let's say that in February 2025, the government puts out a cutoff date that's going to start March 2025 for EB5 high unemployment Indian investors. All investors that fall within that category would want to make sure that their application is received by the government by February 28th before that visa bulletin goes into effect. So that timeline is going to be really helpful to keep an eye out on. Every time I do a consult and the clients aren't ready, or the prospective clients aren't ready to immediately file, I send them a link to the visa bulletin and say, hey, keep an eye out on this. You want to make sure that you are keeping an eye out on this so you can file your concurrent green card application. Otherwise, if you miss that window of opportunity, you don't get that benefit of the work authorization and travel permit while you're waiting for your priority date to become current. The other risk, of course, is going to be that there's a small possibility that the government publishes the visa bulletin late, so you get a truncated period of time in order to quickly file something. So you don't want to do this process rushed if you can help it. So my recommendation always is to start the process a little bit earlier, so you have a little bit of breathing room and you can make, the best decisions and choices in this EB-5 process.